Hello and welcome to our Writing Workshop series. This is a collaboration between the North Bay Public Library and members of the North Bay Writers Group. My name is Bethany and I will be your host for this series. Each episode of this series will focus on different writing topics, including story creation, dialogue, research, and more. Each episode will also feature different hosts from the North Bay Writers Group. In this episode, Jared will talk about creating a compelling antagonist, because after all, don't we all love a good villain?
Hello everyone, Jared Hill here again with the North Bay Public Library to deliver another Writers Group workshop. Today I would like to cover one of the most important and essential topics when writing any kind of story, the antagonist. One may describe this character, or series of characters, as the catalyst of all negativity in the story. However, I would like to show you today that this is not the only way to view this integral aspect of your writing. In this workshop, I am looking to show you how to create an antagonist, how they can add and progress your story, and what will make the antagonist feel both relatable and larger than life. While creating the negative force, if you will, in your story, it is very important to bear in mind the 5 W's. Who? Who was this character before we meet them in the story? Were they always evil? What? What made them choose this path? Do they have a dark history? When? When will their diabolical scheme come to fruition? Has it already been set in motion before we meet them in the story? Where? Where are they from? And how did they get to where they are now? They could have been born in deep poverty, then wound up becoming well off as they age, causing a sense of misanthropy due to the contrast. Why? Why do they do what they do? Is it their past? Are they influenced by someone living or dead? Does the philosophy and conceptual ideologies of morality take part in their actions? Ultimately, what is their motive? In answering these vital questions, you can make a character that does not feel exceptionally one-sided and unrealistic. Villains like Thanos in the MCU, in a manner of speaking, Tyler Durden from Fight Club, are both great examples of developed three-dimensional characters. Villains in Bond films or children's movies who only have one unexplained motive that essentially benefits no one are evil for evil's sake, are boring characters. There are some exceptions. For example, one would argue that Jafar from Aladdin is an interesting villain. However, in general, such villains are either overdone or downright uninteresting. In making an interesting character, you give the antagonist more freedom from within your story. For example, doing such things as having character developing chapters focus on them, showing highlights of their past, giving insight on their emotions, among many other things, will all make them both an integral character and a vital part of the story's progression. Their influence on the flow of the story makes both the character of the antagonist, as well as the tale itself, more interesting, significant, and intriguing. As in most cases of literary works, Shakespeare gives us a golden example of this. In Othello, the main antagonist is Iago. Iago is essentially the protagonist Othello's right-hand man. Despite this, Iago secretly has a hatred for the Moor. Evidently, this is because he wanted to become a lieutenant and instead was given the position of advisor. Thus, he formulates an extremely elaborate plot wherein he forces Othello to believe his wife, Desdemona, is having an affair with Cassio, who is the person who got the lieutenant job Iago had wanted. We see Iago's plan being implemented, feel for his plight in a way, and watch this truly monstrous yet intriguing character cause the tragedy of the play. Indeed, Iago's plan is successful, and in a jealous rage Othello murders Desdemona. When he discovers it had been an elaborate plot by his advisor, and that his wife had been faithful, Othello is in such agony he takes his own life. This, to me, is one of the most well-rounded, believable villains in all of literature. You get direct insight to Iago's perspective through soliloquies. You watch as he cleverly fools all those around him, and you feel a sense of admiration for his, albeit morbid, sense of dedication toward his cause. A more modern example would be Thanos from the Disney Marvel series. Thanos is somewhat of a utilitarian. However, his method of achieving a sense of balance or equilibrium is to decimate half of the universe's population. His belief being that most planets' issues are caused by overpopulation. As I am sure we all know, this leads him to create the Infinity Gauntlet, go through with his idea, and eventually be defeated by the Avengers. What makes Thanos such a great villain is his sense of righteousness and his internally conceived sense of altruism. Though his methodology of saving the universe is not optimal, one might argue that his heart is in the right place. He is seeking to create peace and prosperity for all living things in the universe. Of course, the Avengers were super ungrateful, but, whatever. Now we will discuss how villains can progress the story in a way no other character can. One thing I am particularly fond of while reading about antagonists is the writer's ability to help me understand them. I dabbled into this a bit earlier, however, looking in depth on them helps develop the world more and give reasons as to why things are the way they are or will be in your world. Things like giving the antagonist a backstory, developing their own personal set of morals, showing their rise to power, and giving them minions or colleagues will all collectively enrich your story, as well as help you, the writer, decide where the story will go. This will also help dictate what kind of person the villain is. Are they consistently evil, old school? Have they suffered great pain and are seeking vengeance for it? What is their professional background? Asking these kinds of questions dictates how they go about their goals and generate different kinds of challenges for the protagonist to overcome. A minor example of this is Mr. Freeze from Batman. The antagonist in this case is a scientist whose wife suffers from a rare and, at the time, incurable disease. In the hopes he can one day find a cure for her, Dr. Victor Freeze freezes her in cryogenic stasis. This is in the hopes that he will be able to find a cure for her without her dying while he is trying to research it. However, scientific research takes a great deal of money. Thus, he uses his scientific mind to essentially give himself superpowers and turn to a life of crime to fund his research. This mindset of any means necessary is quite common in villains, and that is why you must outline their morals. Mr. Freeze believes his wife's life is more important than affecting his own by committing himself to a life of crime, and therefore uses any means to ensure he will find a cure for her. Again, like Thanos, the sentiment of good is there. However, it is a moral and ethical malfunction that causes the antagonist to become, or be viewed as, a villain. The types of villains, as opposed to the pure evil for evil's sake ones, are much more interesting and vital, in my opinion. And that is why having a relatable character while having the capability to make them seem larger than life is very important. An immense misconception when hearing the term larger than life is that the person in question has to be more than human in some capacity. I would argue this is not, at least always, the case. In order to create an exemplary villain or antagonist, you want to give them the sense of being larger than life while also making them relatable. Now, this is not to say you will see eye to eye with the perspective of your antagonist. Far from it. At the end of the day, they are seeking what they are seeking will epitomize evil in one sense or another. In the same breath, it does not mean their goals necessarily must be pure evil. This means a great deal of things. Perhaps they experienced great trauma in their youth or at some point, which skewed their senses of morality. Perhaps they were innocent before a situation or series of situations corrupted them. They developed the ends justifies the means perspective. They believe what they are doing is inherently cruel, but in their perspective, the result is for the greater good overall. And a tremendously great example of this would be the pigs from Animal Farm. Perhaps they're victims of circumstance and feel as though they do not control their destiny. Maybe they're seeking vengeance, similar to the ends justify the means. Think of Count of Monte Cristo as a great example. Maybe they're too stupid to see what they're doing is wrong. This is usually reserved for a comedy. Or do not do the wrong thing intentionally. When making a villain, I believe the best ones are the ones that you can see yourself in. In The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's Joker is an anarchist who believes insanity and sanity are one bad day away. A common concept in many versions of the Joker. The things that make him relatable and entertaining are not his scars, not his views on violence, not the murders. These aspects make him larger than life due to the extremes the Joker is consistently in. No, these things make him distant from the reader. What makes this antagonist intriguing is his ability to question the status quo, show the dark side of people who refuse to talk about their issues in the real world, and his ability to take action against it. We may not agree with the method, but we agree that the inherent corruption and greed within, in this case, Gotham must be taken down. The results he ultimately seeks are where the viewer and the Joker split apart. An antagonist, at the end of the day, is still a person. Giving insight on their personal lives, how they interact with others, and showing their backstory will make your story both more enjoyable and believable. Additionally, concepts you can include are empires established or being created, cult followings established or being created, such as Metalocalypse or Fight Club, love interests, and lone wolf concepts. Having a larger-than-life character, villain or otherwise, does not mean that they must be inconceivably powerful, angry, or even have a bad personality. What, at least I believe, makes a character larger than life is their impact on the reader. So make someone worth reading about. Make them lovable, loathable, relatable, despicable. Make the audience feel this character as much as they are experiencing them. We all want to make a story that people will love. Whether it be for plot accuracy, how fun it is to read, or how enjoyable relating to this character is. We are looking to make a difference in our reader's life. And for me, having a relatable topic and world-expanding villains is just as important as the writing of your protagonist. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again soon.
NBPL Podcasts is a production of the North Bay Public Library. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Also, if you know someone who might be interested in this series, please share this with them. Thanks to the North Bay Writers Group for sharing their time and talents in this series. If you'd like to learn more about this group, there is a link to their Facebook group in the show notes. Follow the North Bay Public Library on Facebook and connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at North_Bay PL.